We're going to take a look today at working in a more, what might be called graphic style with pen and ink, or what many of us use today instead of India ink, which was at one point the only kind of ink one would use to draw, but now we have markers, we call them magic markers. So that's what I'll be using. The usual suspects in my drawing repertoire are graphite, or as we know, pencil, and my eraser. My eraser is never far from me or far from my pencil, and so I make a mark, and if I don't like it, I want to alter it, I just erase it. With a marker or ink, that's not possible. What's down is down. And so there are different ways to deal with that. One can plan in advance very meticulously. One can do a pencil sketch first and then go over it in marker if they are very attached to having the drawing look a certain way. But there's another way that is kind of fun, and it's not, as I say, my usual way of working, but sometimes it's good to kind of get outside the normal patterns and the comfort zone, and sometimes the markings you make surprise you when they come out of you, and then you just learn to deal with marks that you don't care for so much. You learn to live with them or incorporate them into the drawing. So I have here a drawing that I did earlier of this wonderful tool. I picked one of the most complicated things I could find because I wanted to, I don't want to say mistakes, but I wanted to do contours and shapes that were not closely representative to this, so that I could figure out how to alter them in a different way. So this is the finished drawing, which I kind of like. I think it's kind of fun. But I started with this piece of paper, and this was the first go at it. And then I wasn't happy with that part in there. I didn't think it was, let's see, I guess it was this way. No, it was this way. Yeah, I didn't think it was representative of what was going on in there, so I taped a piece of paper. I couldn't find my glue stick. Glue stick really works better. So I just taped a piece of paper on there, and I redrew it, and I didn't like what was going on down here, so I taped a piece of paper on here, and I redrew that because I really liked the way those the grips. Thought that was an interesting shape. And then I drew right over that, and then I took this and I Xeroxed it so that I had a flat surface to draw on. And then I drew on top of that, and I Xeroxed it again, because I think I put this over it and I Xeroxed it again, and I ended up with this. Oh, and then I did some, you could call this shading in the world of printing presses, which is also a graphic art. You can't, as with the pencil, you can't get what's called continuous tone down. If you want to shade something in, you have to live with a series of vertical and horizontal marks, or stipples, little dots, which is called halftone instead of continuous tone, and that's where you get your different grade from. This would be black, this would be white, and this would be halfway between black and white, or a halftone. And if I wanted to get that area a little bit darker, I would go in with more lines, and that would darken it up. But so those lines that I put in that I'm calling halftones function as a sort of sort of giving it a little bit of 3-dimension, but also it's a very, I find, pleasing graphic marking. It breaks up these two big shapes with these interesting alternative shapes, and so that's a great technique to get interest and variation in just a black pen and white paper. So I'll do a quick little demonstration here. Here's an example of how that's really done. I mean, this is the way it was done many, many years ago, before we had the kind of printing, or there are other processes where you can get continuous tone, but this is one way to get different shades of tone with just the lines of a pen. So anyway, I'll do a quick little demonstration here. I have this wonderful ice cream scoop that came from my grandparents' farm. They had a dairy farm and they made ice cream in the summers. You can't really see the lighting on that globe there because the light's coming the wrong way, but anyway, I wanted to pick something sort of complicated, and whatever you work on, it's important to, if you're working in marker, it's important to put something beneath it, especially if you're working on a table. You don't want to mark up the table, or you don't want to mark up your next page if you're working on a tablet. So that's really important. And so I have my paper that I can cut up, I have my scissors, I have my glue stick, and I'm just going to dive right in here. And I'm not going to worry about getting it right, because I'm going to cut and paste and alter that way if I'm not happy with the shapes. So I have a sort of ellipse that I'm seeing there, and I can see just a little bit of the back of that scoop. And there's the part of the casing here that holds the handle. Got this long thing here, and then this part of it holds the gear. So I'm not measuring, I'm eyeballing. I'm going more quickly than I usually do than maybe when I work in pencil. And I have the handle here. Now I'm going to look at it and I'm going to assess where I think there needs to be alterations. And I'm not real happy with this part. So I'm going to cut a piece of paper and glue it right over that. These glue sticks are great. Different variety of companies make them, but it'll stay there while you want it to, but it will also come up if you want to do that too. So I'm going to go back over this. I've lost there it is. And I'm just going to look at that. For one thing, mine's a little wobbly, so I'm going to make it a little straighter. And actually I'm seeing two sort of posts there. So I'll take the advantage of this piece of paper showing the two posts. And then I'm just going to look at this part of the handle and the gear a little bit more closely. These gears down here. Now my handle's going to be in the wrong place, so I'm going to cut another piece of paper and cover that up, because that's now not going to be where I want it. And I would probably, because this is a fairly quick process, I would probably do a number of these. Just experiment with different views, maybe pose the subject a little bit differently. Now, this is a really subtly shaped handle here. probably not quite big enough, substantial enough, so I would probably redo that. If I had the opportunity, I might Xerox this so that I have a flat area to continue drawing on. Get this gear back in here. And then I might go ahead and do some halftone just to give it some variety. This is interesting to show the how would I show that concave bowl thing in there. This isn't going to be a literal rendition of this tool, but this is making some interesting shapes that I find kind of fun. So I'm detaching myself in a way from thinking of this as an ice cream scoop, and now I'm beginning to think of this as just an interesting graphic shape to play with. So that would be one approach to working with pen and ink and how to deal with markings that you want to alter once that pen and ink is down.